Hello, welcome. So today we'll be discussing around depression, understanding depression and self-help tips for overcoming depression. By way of definition, depression is said to be a mood disorder and it usually causes persistent feelings of sadness and loss of interest. They are very sad and they don't have interest in many of the regular like life activities, going out, speaking with people, interest, the same things they used to love doing before. You find that they're not losing interest. They're losing interest in it. Then most people would feel better with medications or psychotherapy. Medications is you give them drugs for those who have a lot of hormonal imbalance, the neurotransmitters that should make people feel happy, give people motivation about life. If those neurotransmitters are low, if you give medications to adjust that, many of them will feel better. But for some people, it's just their thinking patterns that gets them into this depressed mood. So psychotherapy is like you're teaching them to think. You first have to hear their own narrative of how they think, their thought patterns. Now see what is wrong with it. Then psychotherapy, you gradually teach such an individual to think in a better way. So many times psychotherapy and drugs would help, and many times is both that an individual will need. So you see someone who is depressed, please know that it is treatable. Please know that it's treatable. Then it's also not something people can just snap out of, because the few people I've seen, the relatives just expect them to just snap out of it. You should be able to just get over it. Depression is different from sadness. Sadness, you know, this is why I'm unhappy. Depression, after a while, they don't even know why they're unhappy. Then someone whose hormones are not balanced, you can't just tell them to snap out of it. The same way you can't tell a diabetic that just control your sugar now. It's not within that person's control. It's also not something you can say, just go and pray, you will be fine. Because some men of God or spiritual people who struggle with depression and have prayed and say that they're not getting better, they then feel, I'm not godly enough. Maybe that is why I'm depressed. You can't pray depression away. The same way you can also not pray diabetes away. So you have someone who is depressed is a mental illness. It's a mood disorder, but it's a psychiatric disorder. That person needs to go to the hospital, be seen by a doctor, and probably medicated or plan for psychotherapy as the case may be. So they can't snap out of it. They can't just spray it away. It's not a weakness of character. It doesn't mean the person is not emotionally strong. A lot of things are going on in the head that looking at the person face to face, you can't understand it. Same way you can't look at a diabetic face to face and say, you now understand why the sugar is not controlled. It's more complex than snapping out, praying, get your emotions under control, and all of those things that we give with the intention of helping people, which would even further make us do many damages. Now, statistics. In 2017, WHO, World Health Organization, conducted a research in Nigeria and found that 3.9% of the population in Nigeria suffers from depression. I tell you, that is grossly underreported. Many people who have depression don't go to the hospital. If they go to the hospital, some of us medics don't know how to deal with such, and we just tell them get better, deal with the physical complaints that at least is within our milieu, and just let it be. And some people, for the stigma and everything associated, they don't talk about it. So it's grossly underreported. That was 2017. With all of the economic downturns, the crisis, the terrorism and everything afflicting our nation now, that number could be well close to 7% or 10%. So it goes to show that the average 15% or the 10 persons you see, one person is going through depression. Well, opening our eyes to these statistics is just to call us to be kinder to people, to be kinder to each other. One, and to also take our mental health very seriously. If you have symptoms and you don't understand what it looks like, if you pray it away and it's not going, find your way to the hospital, and don't start self-medicating with the aim of getting better. But I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So still that same statistics, they found that Nigeria is the most depressed country in Africa. Alarming, right? Yes. Found it also very shocking. But with all of the things we are going through, it doesn't beg so many questions. So what are the symptoms for someone that is saying, okay, with this depression thing, maybe I have it, maybe I have someone who has it? What are some symptoms that someone should watch out for? One is feelings of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, and hopelessness. There's just that sadness that the individual cannot shake away, and you can't pin it to something. Or the person is just crying all the time, and nothing is making the person cry. Or the person is feeling hopeless about life, is just feeling very empty. That could be a symptom of depression. Then someone who was not a volatile person before starts having hungry outbursts, is irritable, is looking frustrated, especially over small matters. You have seen some of those people before now. Many people on the roads, they are really, really irritable. Some of them have borderline depression. You just do one small mistake like this, the way they explode will be like, what happened now, from where to where? Those are symptoms of irritability to very minor things, things that ordinarily they would have not even taken serious, they would have just disregarded it. Okay? Then loss of interest or pleasure in most or all normal activities. They lose interest in food. For the married ones, they lose interest in sex, or as the case may be, they lose interest in their hobbies. Those who like to go for Owambes every Saturday before, you now find that this is the 4th week. This person has been carrying a long face, is looking unhappy, is crying all the time, has not gone for any party. 4 Saturdays now. Something could be going on. Something could be going on. Someone who goes to play ball every evening, this is the 2nd week, has not gone to play ball. Very well. It could be that something is going on. So they lose interest in their hobbies. You give them foods, they are not eating. Though there are some people that will even now start medicating their unhappiness with food. We'll come to discuss that later. But many times they lose interest in food, they lose interest in sex. Then sleep disturbances. Either they can't find sleep, or now they are sleeping too much. So if you know someone who is always in the room, is not going to work, is not going to school, is just spending the whole day lying down sleeping, or just wasting away time on the phone, and has been carrying a long face, hasn't been eating, is losing interest in regular activities, it could be that the person is depressed. Then there's this tiredness and lack of energy. Those who have been depressed will report it as a feeling of you are carrying a 10 kg weight around, and that weight could be your chest, could be your head. Even they walk very, very heavy. You'll be like, you're not bigger than this now. Why are you carrying yourself like this? It could be that that individual is depressed. Then slowed thinking, slowed speaking, and slowed body movement. They are sluggish. You ask a question, it takes a long time to get a response. They move very sluggishly. They're not carrying their bodies briskly. And this is somebody who used to be sharp before and is now very slow, very dull. It could be that the person is depressed. Then another thing is they'll have feelings of worthlessness and guilt. It could be over the past, it could be over the present, but the guilt is grossly irrational to the issue on ground. Then many times they fixate on past failures and they blame themselves for things that by the time you experience, you'll be like, this one is not your fault now. I mean, this one happened too long ago for you to still be worried about it now. That's another symptom that will let you suspect that this person may be depressed. Then they have trouble thinking, concentrating, making decisions, and remembering things. They are not too good with doing that. So that could be a symptom that someone is also depressed. Then they're having frequent or recurring thoughts of suicide, and some people would even attempt suicide but do not die. Okay, I will take some time on this. Thoughts of suicide, if you or anyone you know mentions that constitutes major clinical depression, that one the person needs to be seen by a psychiatrist, probably even admitted. So you know someone or you have such thoughts, contemplation of suicide, please get the person help. Please get the person help. It's not that you now be telling the person, why do you want to kill yourself? Nigeria will still be better. What is not good today will still be good tomorrow. All of those ones are wonderful. I'm not saying they're not wonderful. But whatever has messed up with the mind and the brain to the point of contemplating suicide, I tell you, is significant. They need to be medicated. They need serious intensive psychotherapy sessions. Or someone now attempts suicide. You know those people that pound battery and drink it. Abi someone who tries to drink snipers, but you came and you found the person drinking it or was just about to start. Abi was trying to drink Gamalin 20. You found the person, but you were able to stop it. Attempted suicide, whether successful or not successful, needs to be admitted in a psychiatric facility. That constitutes major clinical depression. Needs medications. We would also need psychotherapy. So don't see such and now call a family meeting around such an individual, or even call the pastor to deliver the person from that spirit of whatever it is. Please, depression is real, it's a mental illness, it's not witchcraft. So you see someone who wants to kill himself, that is an alarm bell for you to know that a lot of things are going on. The same way you see a diabetic who loses consciousness, you don't call pastor to come and deliver the spirit of loss of consciousness from the person now. You carry the person to the hospital, they do a blood glucose check and give whatever treatment needs to be given. So the same thing, someone has been carrying a long face, has been crying a lot, has not been eating, spends most of their time in their room, is not going for their usual hobbies, is not associating with people, and you find them trying to shake snipers together. Please get the person to the hospital. Please get the person to the hospital. Then the other core sign of depression is unexplained physical symptoms, persistent chest pain, persistent back pain, headaches that refuses to go away and for which there is no medical explanation. They've done all the tests, they've seen all the doctors, and they keep telling them there's nothing there. There's nothing there. If you dig deep, this is for the medics. If you dig deep, there could be some underlying subclinical depression hanging around. So for those of us who are medically inclined and we see patients who are having persistent physical symptoms and every other investigation you've done does not point out something, rather than keep investigating, check what is happening in their mind. The problem may not be in the body. Now it could be in the mind. Okay, so now, say someone self-diagnose and say, I have depression, or I know someone who has depression. My number one advice is go to the hospital. But if someone now say, okay, what can I even do before I go to the hospital? So these ones are like self-help for someone who is depressed, is to stay in touch. What do I mean by staying in touch? Depression isolates. It isolates with that feeling of, I don't want to even hang out with people. People are too much for the depressed. Interactions are too much. So they just want to be on their own. You don't trouble me, I don't trouble you. But the opposite of that is what they should do. So that is staying in touch. Staying in touch will include, if you're a church goer, go to church, let them see you, whether you feel like it or not. If you're a mosque goer, go to mosque, let them see you, whether you feel like it or not. Then everyone should have a lifeline. Someone that, if they don't see you that day, or you don't call them that day, they should be able to reach you. Every human being should have that one. If it's a married person, you should have your spouse. If it's children, you should have your parent. That if they have not seen you or they've not heard from you that day, they should call you. So, and this is also like a clause to parents. Please reach out to the younger ones to reach out to the very older ones. So stay in touch with those who I will call lifelines. So at least that way you're not checking out of associations, you're not checking out from relationship, and at least that interaction will still boost your morale and release some feel-good hormones that helps a bit. Then the person has to start being more active, because one of the telltale symptoms of depression is inactivity. They are sluggish, they are slow, they don't want to do activity, they just don't want to sleep, lie down sleep. Abi binge watch series, movie series, can be on the chair for 12 hours watching movie from morning till night. That doesn't help. That is just like an escape from the terrible feeling of depression. So being active will include as simple as 20 minutes walk a day. 20 minutes walk a day. Exercise has been found to release dopamine, serotonin. Those are hormones that make us feel good, that boost our self-confidence, give us motivation, make us feel happy. So consistent exercise is also one thing I would recommend for someone who suffers from depression. Then consuming healthy things. Consumption, I don't mean food alone. It goes through the mouth, goes through the nose, goes through the eyes, goes through the ears. Healthy things, if we start with food, wholesome farm-grown meals. If it comes from the farm, it is probably healthy. You understand what I'm talking about, so I don't want to dwell much from that. That will not be the time to consume 4 bottles of Coca-Cola. That will not be the time to start with burger in the morning, then meat pie in the afternoon, then cake in the night. Those are desserts that you should just take a little of it. For those who have sweet tooth, it shouldn't be a whole meal. But many times the depressed is so tired and unmotivated to cook that anything they bring, many times will be junks, will just eat. Then because the sugar makes them feel good a little, so it's like self-medicating, but this time around is a deadly logic. You are self-medicating with something that would even further crash you again. So wholesome, healthy meals that are farm-grown is what I would advise by the way of food. Other consumptions will be the things we watch. For those who would now say, okay, they want to use movies to cope in the interim. Horror movies, crime movies, all of these ones that drive a lot of negative emotions are not such. Abi horror movies, action movies, or if you understand what I'm saying, movies that drive a lot of negative emotions that makes you scared, makes you jumpy, they would not be the best for someone who wants to watch movie while they are depressed. Neither will them be negative news channels. For every 10 news you watch, chances are 8 of them are negative. The latest bombings, the new hike of price of everything and all of those things. Those are further triggers to sink further. So they should watch what they consume. It should be holistic, it should be uplifting, it should be positive. At least in that period they are in that phase of depression. Then by the way of the ears, what are the things they put into the ears? What kind of musical lyrics do they listen to? What kind of conversations do they listen to? That will not be the time for you as a relative to now start castigating them of everything that is wrong with them. You're always unhappy, you're always carrying a heavy face. Are you the only one in this family? We have other members for or just on and on like that. Many times we say that with the intention of motivating them to change, but many times it doesn't change them. They just sink further. So we see the depressed person should be mindful of what they consume into their system by the way of the mouth, the eyes, the nose, and every other areas of consumption. Okay? Then a depressed individual needs to develop a routine around their sleep, because sometimes they are awake all night and sleep during the day, but they are awake sometimes, they keep themselves occupied just to remove that feeling of being sad, being low. They could be occupied with phone, they could be occupied with social media. Someone is going to sleep by 2 a.m. and is waking up by 10 a.m. They should have a routine around their sleep pattern. You know, you sleep by 9 and you wake up by 6. So such an individual should develop a routine. If he's a student, know when you sleep, know when you wake up, and get up and go to school, whether you feel like doing it or not. If he's someone who works, has a business, who works in a formal organization, get up. Someone who works in a formal organization, still get up, show up. Let the emotions take care of itself after showing up. Staying boxed at home will further worsen the situations. It will not make it better. So whatever you feel, regardless of how down you feel as a depressed person, get up and show up. Okay? Then the other thing is learning to challenge negative thoughts. Depressed people, they have negative thoughts. Negative thoughts many times about themselves, about those around them, about the world, feeling they are not good enough, they are not loved, they are worthless, the world is a bad place, and on like that. There's nobody that is worthless. There's nobody that is not loved. It's called the cognitive distortion. When people start to see in black and white, there is nothing in life that is black and white. It's somewhere in the middle. So they need to learn to challenge such negative thought with affirmations that says the very opposite. Stick it on your wardrobe, stick it on your mirror, stick it on your walls. Say it to yourself. That's another way of putting positive through the gateway of the ear and the gateway of the mind. Say it to yourself that till it neutralizes the negative concept you have of yourself. For those who are faith inclined, who are Christians, look for biblical declarations about everything you want to be and declare it until it sinks in your mind and becomes your reality. So they need to learn to challenge negative thought patterns. Then the other thing is learning. They need to start. Someone who is depressed needs to help someone. volunteer. What do I mean? Volunteering in church, volunteering in an orphanage, volunteering in elderly home, and the likes. That way, it takes the thought of everything of what is wrong with you, removes it from you, and focuses it on other people. Then volunteering and charity acts gives us that positive boost of neurotransmitters that are wonderful for the brain, again, dopamine, serotonin. So let a person volunteer. Someone who is also musically inclined, get into music, get into just activities outside of you that allows you express yourself and feel good on return. Music, swimming, go walking, take a walk in the nature and the likes. Then, of course, I cannot end without saying pray now. You will pray and do all of those other practices. Then, after all has been said and done, the person visits a doctor if these symptoms do not resolve despite all of these practices. It could very well be that the person needs medication or needs psychotherapy. So then, if you find someone or you know someone who would need this, kindly share with the person, like and subscribe. So till next time, have a wonderful day. Please stay sober. Bye.